Hey, legends, welcome to the Pot Noodle on Celtic Down Under. I'm your host, Jared, and joining me tonight are Ian and Shane. How you going, Ian?
I'm good. I'm good. Still waiting for us to sign a striker or sign anybody, as I'm sure we all are.
Yeah, how you going, Shane?
Good, mate. Good. Good to be with you. We were just chatting off air. I'd spent the weekend over in Adelaide, or Radelaide as it's known here. Melbourne Victory. We're playing Adelaide United. So, first sort of away day I've done in the league for about 7 or 8 years. So, really enjoyed it. Everything up until Melbourne Victory got robbed of essentially a last minute winner. And I'm still pretty dirty about it. So, yeah, absolute robbery.
We all know Shane hates the VAR and the re-refereeing of games and that sort of stuff. So let him know in the comments. Just put your most favourite VAR robbery in the comments. Let him know so he can feel like he's not alone here.
Have you
But
seen?
yeah,
Did you see the scream of the VAR with Johnny Kenny's disallowed goal?
that was
yeah.
shocking.
Oh, honestly, like what was that? Remember, like the really sort of early versions of computer software from like the late '70s. It
The
basically
MS
looks
DOS.
like that. Honestly, it's like it's about a mile away as well, and it's like, oh, honestly.
I wasn't sure if it was done on like an old MS DOS thing or an Atari system or something like that. It was pretty bad.
It's
But
like
the
it
thing
was
for
like a high
me,
school project from 1993 or something.
yeah, and the thing for me is that wasn't even at their stadium. Like I named tonight's episode from the sixth tier to the Serie A because that's where we're going from, our latest opponents to the next one, right? So I thought that's a good one. But we're playing a team from the sixth tier, but we're playing them. What was it Achilles Stadium at Rugby Park? Weren't we on the plastic? So you think they'd at least have a decent VAR there because it's a top flight club? Nah, rubbish. So yeah, it was that one, Ian. I thought it was funny because I know they say they have to measure it from where you can score, and I remember growing up watching football. You're offside based on your feet only. So if your foot was further behind the defender, you're onside, even if your body was leaning forward. And since VAR's come in, they've changed it, so it's now a scoring part of your body. So if your head, your shoulder, you can score with that. Your hip, your knee, your foot, if any of that is in front, then they chalk it off. And oh, dude, I'll tell you what, I was watching some A League games. I was watching some other Scottish football games, and I'm just at the point where I wish the refs would, like linesmen in particular, would just put their flag up. It was obvious. Put your flag up if it's close. Let them play.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done with VAR. Like I've had enough of it, and it's not going away. But ideally, I would get rid of it. We can't. But there's no doubt in my mind in the current implementation of Scotland, Australia, and other parts of the world, it simply cannot continue in its current guise. There has to be some sort of tweak to it that's going to make it reduced to less re-refereeing and more clear and obvious howlers. Because right now, to me, it's a failure.
Yeah. Well, twin with the kind of the ambiguous kind of takes on certain laws. It should be black and white. All the laws should be black and white. And when it's subjective, that's a whole new world of pain.
This
But
isn't
you
a
still have
smut. It's not a smut book, Ian. It's not a smut book. It's not 50 Shades of Grey here for VAR. It's black and white. There you go. So that's one for any of the women Celtic fans tuning in. There you go. You never would have thought you'd see that on this podcast.
Oh dear. Oh jeez.
But no, I get what you guys are saying, and it's frustrating. Like I think if you're going to have VAR, there needs to be a standardized system across the world that everyone's using. Like the one they use in the EPL and they use in the Bundesliga, decent. The Timu version we got in Scotland and in Australia needs to change.
Yeah.
I just love the way we're appealing to whole new markets with our references now. That's awesome. Shout out to everyone involved who enjoys that literature.
I could have said, it's like a version of Penthouse or Playboy or something, but I thought I'd go the smut book versions instead.
Keep it upper class, right?
Dan's not here to bring us down to that level, so there you go. Have to. No, so yeah, it's been a bit of an interesting one. I'll get some comments up to start the pod, and then we'll crack on into the game. And really, my run sheet tonight has 3 talking points, so this could go anywhere. This could be a waffle session. So if you've got any questions, put them in the comments. If you want to, if you got any topics you want us to talk about, chuck them in there. But I've got a few things for us to go through. So, Franny, thanks for tuning in. Absolute legend.
Hey, Franny.
And Franny saying poor display against a junior team shows up how weak our squad is. Well, that's one of the main topics I had off the back of the game to talk about is our squad depth or lack thereof was what I put on the show notes. Smell the glove. G'day, troopers. Who are we not signing today? Everyone. Steve McGonigal is saying, is Kenny now worth 5 million? Are we starting to see the return of Kenrick Larson after that performance? I know it was against the 6-tier team, so let's not get too excited. But yeah, we're past the 5-minute mark. Thank you. I'll get to this comment here, Simon. I'm impressed with how well run under market leader Celtic are. World-class bullshit. Robert Gibson does not miss. Kenny is about as effective as a flaccid cock. So talking about VAR, Smell the Glove is saying VAR in Scotland is powered by a Sinclair ZX81.
Yeah.
Mahesh is saying Arsene Wenger wants to bring in the daylight rule. And Franny's saying I'll never attend a game with VAR. Mahesh is saying VAR's not perfect, but accuracy's gone up from low 80s refs to about 93%, so it's an improvement. Yeah, but when your refs are a bunch of, lodge members and stuff like that, allegedly, you get this way. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of an interesting one. We got this one from John Cance. Another week, another disappointment on the transfer market. I'm liking what I'm seeing from David Lowe and his intent to represent Celtic supporters and investors to the tune of about 20%. The thing that David Lowe and Gordon Smiley and those guys are, I think it was Gordon Smiley. Did I get his name right?
Duncan Smiley.
Duncan Smiley. I don't know where Gordon came from. I knew I said it wrong. As soon as it came out, I'm like, that's not him. What they're putting together is basically everything I'm hearing about it is a ton better than what the Celtic Trust has put together. That's what we've got to do to sort this shit out. But yeah, going to be interesting. So with all that in mind, Shane, what was your thoughts on the game? I'm going to bring up the starting lineup and we can go through that. So against Auchinleck Talbot, that's a rough punt on how I'd say it. I don't have that lingo. How'd I go, Ian?
Auchinleck Talbot, yeah.
Yes, I got it right. There you go. So Sinisalo in goals. We can't see. Oh, there you go. Shane's at it again. Sinisalo in goals. For me, looking at this lineup, the whole back four, academy prospect players are coming through our academy. Ralston, Murray, Welsh, Donovan, all right footers. And you got McGregor and Jamesy out there as well starting. So we had more than half the starting lineup came through our youth academy, which was interesting. Bernardo getting a run. Balikwisha coming in and playing what was in the 10 role or something like that. And then Kenny up front. So then you look at the bench, Schmeichel, Scales, Nigrin, Yang, Shin, Tenekti, Maeda, Hatade, Haney. So there's a couple of guys completely rested. But yeah, what was your thoughts going in the game, seeing that lineup, Shane, and then about the first half?
Well, my main thought going into the game, and particularly after seeing that lineup, was this was going to be a very good opportunity for a couple of players who are on the fringes or maybe on the outer that haven't had a chance to maybe shine just yet or have only done so in patches and give themselves a real good opportunity to stake a claim for some sort of involvement in this Martin O'Neill-led team for the rest of the season. There's obviously a bit of stability now that we know Martin is interim manager and is remaining until the end of the season. So there's not going to be another chop and change that these players have to necessarily worry about. And so that's how I looked at it and thought, well, what can some of these players do to actually make themselves a viable option to be used by Martin, not necessarily even as a starting player, but as an option that he can turn to. And in particular, I won't get into details about the players and their performances just yet. I know you want to talk about the depth stuff later, but I'm talking about the likes of Balikwisha and Bernardo and Kenny and so forth. So that was what my main focus of the game was seeing how can this team, A, gel together, and also get a good idea of are these players actually going to be something that Martin can turn to later on in the season. Look, it was a pretty dire first half. I'm not going to lie. We were pretty flat. Auchinleck, they were always going to sit deep. They were always going to have men behind the ball. They were going to try and prevent us from scoring as long as possible. And we were just too passive. We were too patient with the ball. All of our best moments were where we got the ball out wide and we got to the byline and we cut it back. Every one of our good moments in the first half was due to that play. Any time that we were too slow or we didn't hit the byline or we constantly tried to cut inside, it were just too many numbers. We didn't have the quality on the park to work with that kind of level of sort of intricate play with so many numbers around the ball. And it was a pretty rough watch. And no one really, in all honesty, stood out in that first half. Credit to them. They were always going to be plucky, and they did very well. They were unlucky, in all honesty, not to go in at halftime 0-0. But yeah, our best moment of the first half is obviously the goal. And that comes from the ball going to McCowan dropping the shoulder, getting to the byline, cutting it back. There's a little bit of fortune, of course. It comes off the Auchinleck defender, but Kenny's there to prod it home. But there were a couple of glaring misses prior to that. One of them was offside, but you don't know that until the flag goes up. But overall, no real standouts in that first half.
For me, the first half, I just thought we were wasteful. Like, as I was mentioned, episode title, 6th-tier opponent. This is our squad players. What you're thinking is, all right, I want to see these players get out there and have a crack and try and put a marker down and go, hey, Martin, put me in your thoughts for the rest of the season. What it looked like to me, particularly in the first half, is we were just way too passive. We just were going through the motions with that, and it was disappointing for me. Like, some of the opportunities, we were barely even getting out of second gear or into second gear, and we could have been 4-5 up at half time. And that's only, and I find that very disappointing. And there's a few comments here. So McLaughlin saying a team of fringe players who are mostly pish, by the way. And then Stephen McGonigal is saying, did you see Welsh bringing his mistake back to the team? I love how he makes a mistake and then grabs his back as well. Stock standard for the shot bag. I think at the end of the day, now he's played for us this season. He's got to go back to Motherwell as part of a potential move for Mahawanasi, or however you say his name. I'm shocking with his name.
Mahawanisi.
That's the one, Mahawanisi. There you go. So, yeah, McLaughlin's saying we've gone back 10 years. I don't think yesterday's team is any better than Dahlia's last few months. Yeah, pretty much. Smell the Gloves saying Auchinleck is about 14 miles from where I live. It has more lodges than a Canadian outdoor resort. So, yeah, it was a bit of a strange one looking at that first half and that lineup. Like, I was hoping some players would put a marker down. A lot of them flooded to do anything. And, the only one that of the main guys I wanted to see that you touched on early on, Shane, like you think Bernardo would be up and about for it, McCowan would be up and about for it. You'd want to see Kenny do something. Is Jamesy here, or is he starting to run out of legs? But the big one for me was I wanted to see Sinisalo. The problem is when you're playing behind that back line, makes it a bit hard for him. So I'm giving him a pass. Everyone else, they don't get that from me. What was your thoughts, Ian?
Well, Sinisalo, the thing that sticks in my mind was that fumbled punch that he went for. It was kind of like the Keystone Cops with the defence, and then he came out and kind of he didn't really cover himself in glory, so it was a bit of a sort of clowning effort, really. I actually didn't see the full game. I've just seen the highlights, so I can't sort of claim to have seen it all. But from what I did see, and it was BBC's highlights as well, so it could have been a little bit edited to make Celtic not look as particularly strong as they maybe were in the full game. But yeah, and I didn't see Stephen Welsh's mistake. I actually thought he looked quite decent and commanding in the highlights reel. Again, it was against a team that's sort of in the 6th tier. Luke McCowan was a standout. He seemed to be sort of our best player. Kenny, again, he shows his strength, and there is something with the lad, but was he 23? He's not that young, really. You'd think it'd sort of it'd be coming onto a game a bit more now. But I think in terms of the amount of changes that are made, any team that has to sort of deal or contend with any large amount of changes, it's hard to get a rhythm, And it's like, and if players aren't 100% at it or they're not entirely confident, obviously, let's not forget as well that it must be on the mind that you're the big club and you're expected to rattle 6 or 7 goals in it. There's a lot of pressure that comes with that as well. But it's patently clear that the team needs an injection of new blood. It needs people, not just in a football sense, but just in a sense of energy and a different, some different personalities into that group. It's just stale as anything, and it goes to show really as well with that squad that we have, the fact that we're still in a title race. It shows you how poor the league is really, and how poor Rangers and Hearts actually are. That's my take.
It's a bit of an interesting one there for us, because you're thinking, well, Johnny Kenny's 22, and I just checked that for you. But the thing is, Shane, I'm going to ask you this. How tall do you think Johnny Kenny is?
6'1".
What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, I would say it's 6 foot.
Funny thing is, he's 6'2", but I don't think he plays any bigger than Lee Griffiths used to play for us up front. Right. And what's Lee Griffiths, like 5'10"? So it's 4 or 5 inches difference. So it's a bit of a I just look at it that way, and I just can't figure out what the hell's going on.
So is Lee Griffiths really 5'10"?
No, he's short, I think.
Fuck, everyone's taller than me.
Yeah, well, you're a midget.
Okay. That's I was already flat. I'm even flatter now. You tower over me.
The political incorrectness from me telling you that you're a midget. There you go. No, sorry, Shane. Lee Griffiths is 5'9", 175 centimeters.
Doesn't make me feel any better. All right.
I thought you were going to say like an inch is a big deal.
We've already done the 50 Shades of Grey stuff. We don't need to keep going down that path.
So we'll get some comments here. So yeah, just DJ Ray's saying McCowan was terrible. Robert Gibson is saying Balakwisha, rent boy or footballer, either way is fucked. The thing with Balakwisha is I look at it and go, he's never settled. We scouted him for 2 years. We still don't know his best position. Apparently he put in a transfer request when Brendan was still at the club. The way I look at it is we need to sell him this window because he's absolutely shit. And there's going to be some club out there that'll be like, oh, yeah, we scouted him back then and we know what player he is and he just hasn't settled at this club. So if we sell him, we'll get some money back for him. We won't absolutely cut our dicks off on that transfer fee, right? But if we sit on him for another year, then or until the off season, then we could be in a bit of trouble. We'll be lucky to get half what we spent on him back.
That's what we do, isn't it? We overpay. The amount of misses we've had, I think it is the sort of the large fees that we receive for some players that have papered over a lot of the deficiencies within this recruitment strategy.
It goes back a few years, Ian, because I spoke about on the pod last year or the year before that there was a period from when Neil Lennon first came in his first stint through to, I think it was like 2 years ago or something when I said this. I actually went and checked all the strikers, the amount of strikers we signed for £2 million and under. We signed 21 different players who were for strikers at that amount. Add that up, there's £40 million basically thrown against the wall. Yeah. Or you can go and spend 10 million of that on Odds and Edward.
Yeah.
Balakwish has been a big, big miss. And, I think his time was already up before yesterday. Yesterday was kind of last chance saloon. And I think I mentioned on the pod a little while ago, he's not a winger because he can't beat a man. He's got no pace. He can't whip a ball in. So, his only option really was to play as an attacking midfielder in that number 10 role. So he was deployed in that position yesterday. He just kept drifting too wide. He had the same issues that we've seen with him throughout were present yesterday. There was no energy. He's poor on the ball. He doesn't show any desire to really push himself. His link-up play was poor. And then that one shot on goal, which he, in all honesty, a player of his quote-unquote quality should bury, he skies over the bar because he leans back. His technique's terrible. So he's absolutely done. There's no way that he can continue. And I agree with you, Jared. If we sell him this window, we're going to recoup something on him. If we hold on to him and then sell him later, we won't get anything back.
The alarm bell should have rang when we found out that his cousin was George Weah. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Ian was the one dropping that knowledge. DJ Ray saying he never played left wing at Antwerp, was more of a 10. And that's the thing. Why did we scout him for 2 years to then sign him to play left wing then? It makes no sense. Bloody Tisdale, that's all I've got to say. Smell the glove. I saw this and had a bit of a chuckle while you guys were talking. Could we loan Balak Wisher to Hearts or the Huns to weaken their squads?
You know what would happen if we did?
He'd pretty find his level and do all right.
Yeah, he'd be a world-class player.
Like Stephen Welsh at Motherwell, found his level. Yeah, so it was a bit of an interesting one there, but yeah, it was just. What else do you want to talk about for the rest of the game? I think we've pretty much spoken about the majority of it. All I want to say is Tenecti's goal was absolute cracker. Good to see us shoot from outside the top of the box. That's what we should have been doing most of the game. Second half was more the same to me, but I can only go off. I'm going to steal someone's joke from our group chat. Celtic TV is like a Nancy coach Celtic team. You only get one half of football. Is it up yet? The second half yet, Shane?
I checked before we came on and it wasn't. So maybe it's come up in the last hour or 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
This time of the year, though, it's really hard to get 2 halves of football on television. It's a notoriously difficult time of the year. Just like it's really hard time of the year in the January window to sign players. That'll be the excuse that they come out with, probably. It's really hard to show two halves of a game at this time of year.
And I'm going to just use that then. We'll go for a bit of a chuckle because I actually had this in the can for a bit later, but let's get onto it. It's the bingo card for the window. So we've got all these different things here. So we're playing bingo. So January is a hard time to do business, competitive market, discovered an injury, hard to get players to come to Scotland, clubs holding out for more money. Players want to wait till summer, work permit issues, agent complicating things. We won't be rushed. Other clubs move quicker. We try, but not enough time. Selling club changed the terms. Valuations didn't match. Player chose a bigger league. Medical didn't go to plan. Loan market is limited. We're happy with the squad. Need the right player. Budget constraints. Window closed before paperwork. We don't panic buy. Target's already moved. Too many games to negotiate. Market inflated in January. Manager is happy with options. There's your bingo cards. This is going to be played. I'm going to keep this around for the rest of the window, honestly. But yeah, definitely going to be some of them floating around. I think we've already had 2 of them off the top of my head.
Yeah.
We've already had the discovered an injury one for Jocelyn Talbot, who ended up at Sunderland for £3.5 million. And we've also had a valuations didn't match on one of the other ones we were rumoured with. So there you go. We've already got 2 of them up on the board.
It's so ridiculous, the excuses. I don't even regard any of them anymore. It's like it's gone beyond anger. It honestly has. It's so just expected. That guy Olsen that just went to Rangers, why didn't we try and go for him? He's really a really good player.
As soon as I saw that, Ian, I said that in our group chat. I shared that tweet and I was like, why aren't we trying to hijack this?
Yeah.
Like Wolfsburg spent 14 million euros on him in the off season. They've offloaded him on loan and they've agreed a fee. I think it's like £8 million, the equivalent at the end of the season.
Oh, they've got an option to buy, have they?
Yeah. And I'm looking at going, we need a right winger.
Yeah.
And he absolutely tore us to shreds last year in the Champions League. That's the level of player we want that'll improve our first team.
Yeah. And you think that 77 or whatever that magic number is in the bank, we threw away 40 million at the start of the season. If Rangers win the league this year and they go straight into the Champions League, that's 70 odd million. It's gone. the advantage is gone.
Yep.
So the rainy day fund is, it's for fuck all.
Especially when you're going to have to use a chunk of that cash as well to redo our squad.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a cheap rebuild.
Which, but it also ties into how much of that rebuild starts now under Martin in this window, or do we just kick the can down the road until we get to summer and actually get in a new permanent manager? And that's the other big question mark. How much is Martin actually going to start the overhaul of this squad?
Well, apparently he's already out there looking at players like him and Fozzie. We're out at what's it called, the Motherwell game the other day. So they're out there looking. But the talk is that he's come in, and on the 5th of January or whenever he came in, the Tisdale list that they'd spent the last 4 months or whatever going through and parameters got ripped up completely. So now they're looking at it from square one of, all right, what do we need? What sort of player do we want? Who's available? So with that in mind, you're coming in, you're trying to do 4 months of work in 2 weeks to get to where we are now. So I can understand the frustration, but at the same time, yes, we're going to miss a few players, but if we're going to go for loans, this is actually the best time to go for loans because there's going to be players at the end of this window. They're like, I want to try and have a crack at breaking into my World Cup squad. I need to play. Celtic I'll get regular game time there because they're an absolute shambles of a squad at the moment. Cool, let's go. So this is the time when you're going to want to actually look to bring in loans. I normally don't want loans unless it's an option to buy, there. But until we figure out what our structure is going to be, bring in a director of football. I've said that along, and this is what we've got to do. Get the director of football in, set up your scouting and your recruitment, get your new manager arranged, and go from there. Well, perfect. That's what we've got to do. So I'm not necessarily in too much of a stress that we've got to spend 20 million now to sign players and fill holes. I think there's enough players out there who are good enough that we could bring them in to plug gaps until the summer.
And it kind of ties in with the discussion we had last week about, is it potentially Sean Maloney moving into a director of football role, post this interim situation, right? And so maybe they will go in and start buying those players to overhaul the squad on a permanent basis with that thought in mind. So it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. But the lack of activity in what we've seen so far and the stories that have come out have been, as usual, very frustrating.
I'm going to bring up a comment from Simon from Denny. We're saying, generally, I appreciate Martin O'Neill's need to sign off on players, but it's getting so late, incompetent Nicholson won't have time to get deals through. And that's the other side of it. We've got to address the players, address it, figure out who we want, then make the approach, then talk to the player, then get it signed on international transfers, work permits, all that stuff that we've got to do. It's going to take a little bit there, but Michael Ross is saying, does anyone really think getting a new striker will solve our problems? Well, we definitely need one striker or possibly two. But I don't think it's going to be it's going to solve our problems. That's going to give our squad balance and options. Like, we've got nothing off the bench.
If Michael Nicholson's still a silo as well, and he hasn't recognised the problem, the fact that everything's sort of sitting with him and becoming a bottleneck, it's making him look bad. But what other CEO do you know that does everything? You have a team of people, and then you're kind of just basically rubber stamping it and giving it the sign off. But other people have, done the work. You're aware of it, and so it's a roundabout. But if he's sitting and doing everything, and apparently he wasn't even answering his phone in previous windows. Maybe he's just because he's getting that many calls. But I just find it absolutely ludicrous that one man is all things to all men to try and get these deals done. It patently doesn't work.
Yeah, it's the guy's hopeless, but at the same time, yeah, like, I agree with you, Ian. Like, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to word this, but it's micromanaging at the highest order. And why? Like, you could have the best scouts, the best recruitment team. You never know. We might have a decent analytical setup. We might have decent managers, but if the people that they report into are incompetent, then your whole system looks shit. Like, We could have guys like, the new scout we brought in from Chelsea and Tosh out there finding some absolute ideal players to sign, good profile, tick the boxes, are what we need. And then they go to their boss and say, "Hey, this is what I've signed. Well, I know we need a right winger, we need a striker or two, we need a right-sided centre back." Cool, they're the three priorities. There's what I scouted. Here's a list of 10 players we've looked at. Here's all their details. Here's their analytics. This is what matches. Then go to the management team. The problem we had with Brendan before is that info was going to Tisdale, that was then going to Brendan, and Brendan was ripping the list up because Tisdale was scouting absolute rubbish. So now Martin's having to restart with Sean at the moment. We get to that point where we're like, we've got to bring these players in. It doesn't matter how good your scouts are at finding players if you can't get the deal over the line. Like, I was reading something early on. There's a player that was signed by Rebel Leipzig, and they signed him after looking at all his analytics. He played 200 first-team minutes, and they pulled the trigger on it because he ticked all the boxes: physicality, like size, like his athleticism, skills, its position of need. So they went and signed this player. They don't muck around. We joke that, we're an analog club in a digital age. Well, I think we're a Super Nintendo in an AI-driven age nowadays. It's pretty bad, but Shane.
Well, I mean, that's similar to what Hearts have been doing. That's very similar to what Hearts have been doing as well with the Jamestown analytics work. They've been scouting players through that system, through our analytics system, and I think the likes of Braga and the other winger, the Greek fellow that joined them this season, they'd come from backgrounds where you wouldn't necessarily expect them to come from, or you wouldn't immediately assume they're going to set the world on fire at Hearts, but they have done, and that analytics team has picked up some gems. So it's definitely something that I'm not super familiar with personally. I'm only hearing about from the outside looking in. But these analytic companies and looking at players and not necessarily looking at what they've done or the quality that they've done in the leagues that they're currently playing in, but when they get the algorithms together and say, are they actually going to play well with this team? Are they going to be effective in this league? It's a whole different ballgame with looking at being able to sign players that way. And it's something we're seeing a little bit in the A-League at the moment, because for those who aren't aware, Tony Bloom, who's attached to Hearts, is also attached to Melbourne Victory, and they're starting to use that. And I think they've just used that recently on their most recent striker that's been signed. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes from a local personal level. But that sort of gets to your point about how they saw just the 200 minutes and said, right, that player is what we need. So these new analytics, these new way of doing things and finding players, it's a very different world now. And it's one that I think we need to also be on top of and keep an eye on.
What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, I know analytics is driving the whole industry of football, but I do think that the eye test is also very important, and there's so many different frameworks out there within football. It's not just Jamestown Analytics. There's other platforms as well. Bloody hell, even bloody Football Manager is pretty more accurate than the stuff we've got. But Queen's Park had a really good system. I don't know what it's called, but they seem to be sort of pretty progressive. 2 or 3 years ago, they got that manager in, and he kind of left not long after for a better job. But the likes of Queen's Park, a division below us, were sort of putting us to shame in terms of the approach. But you look at, I'm not saying it could happen, but is it Richard Hughes at Liverpool? I put it on one of the group chats today. Mark Burchill at Liverpool. They're at Liverpool, right? But if you throw enough money at somebody, they're both Celtic fans. People of that calibre, we should be going for. Go out and find people who are good at what they do in that role, and pay the money, and then they will have the honest conversations with whoever it needs to be and say, if this is what you want, this is what we've got to do, this is the approach we've got to take, this is the wage, the salary ceiling we're going to have. We have to operate at the level we want to operate at. But I just think that the metrics, all the metrics that we're sort of setting, we're looking for unicorns. They don't exist. The salaries we want to pay, and for the age range, and the sell-on value, all that kind of stuff. It is actually, we're looking for magic dust, and we've got to get real.
Yeah, that's the key thing, Ian. Like, if we're gonna I'm gonna bring up this comment from DJ Ray saying, "I'll work for a PLC. Our CEO employs a number of heads of departments with autonomy. He's
Yeah.
not signing off on every single piece of business that gets assessed every quarter." So it's definitely one of those sort of things, and I agree with it in that bring in the people that you need. Like where you're saying, go to get the guys from Liverpool. I was talking about Club Bruges in the past, Ajax, Red Bull Salzburg, those sort of clubs that are even Porto, that sort of thing. The clubs that are of a similar size to us, big clubs in their leagues with the resources who do really well with their youth development and identifying players and bringing players through and that. That's what like if we can go, that's what we want to do. This is the plan. Then go and target that person to be your head of recruitment and to set things up. You have your director of football, but then you have that next person next rung down who is looking after that area. And that person has the authority to go out and say, this scout's no good. We should bring this scout in, bring that scout in, target this market, target that market, and get on with it. Like, ideally, I would love for us to have a full time scout in the Balkans, a full time scout up in Scandinavia. Those are two markets that players can go from those leagues straight into Scotland and do well, and they bring that technical ability, and they also bring that the big physicality, which will suit Scottish football. And Celtic has done well with players from those markets in the past. So, and they would be relatively cheap, all things considered. So, if we're going to go out there and we got a head of recruitment and we get a quality person to lead that from one of those other, comparative clubs, whether it's a guy from Liverpool or whether it's a guy from Bruges or Ajax or whatever, and then they permanently get quality scouts in each of those markets, that's going to help us bring players through. And that's what we need to do. And then our production line that we talk about works because we have our first team players here, but then we're signing their replacements now. So the replacements at the club for a good 12 months, 18 months before we sell the starter, that bloke steps up and then we buy the next replacement to come in behind them. And that's how it works. That's how a forward planning club would work. But this is Celtic Football Club after all, so we all know what it's like.
Yeah.
Mm.
The thing that frustrates me as well is when you see in the press, Celtic failed to do this, it's not fucking Celtic. It's incompetent people who work for Celtic. Celtic is the fans. Celtic has been there well before them and will be there well after them. But they're besmirching the good name of Celtic. They're making us look like clowns.
Well, the one that sticks in my craw at the moment is the signing we missed out on, and I don't know how much of an overture or engagement we actually made, but the Croatian striker Kovacevic.
They went to Ferencvaros.
Ferencvaros, yeah. So what was interesting about that for me, just did you want to step in? Sorry,
I was just going to say our next manager just went and signed our targeted striker. Apparently, that'll shit Liam. That's why I said it.
That what was interesting about that for me, and again, I don't know how far down the line Celtic actually got with the process of trying to sign him before he went to Ferencvaros, but he's gone to a league that has had some significant changes this season in terms of foreign players, i.e. not Hungarian-born players. I think they need something like 5 Hungarian players need to be on the pitch for every sort of top division team at all times. So as a foreign player going to play in Hungary, you are potentially really fighting for your position because of that particular requirement. And yet that's obviously a more desirable option right now, potentially, than going to Celtic. I look at it that way and get really frustrated and concerned that obviously all of this upheaval and dishevelment that's going on behind the scenes and obviously the bad faith and all that, purely at the board, not the supporter groups or anything like that, but at the board level and our previous failings in this is just having that flow-on effect where people aren't taking us seriously when we come to business deals. We're not treating it seriously. Now people aren't taking us seriously. Now maybe players aren't taking us seriously as an option going forward. And that's really bad.
Well, the thing is, Simon from Denny's saying here, Celtic just inquired about his availability. That's all we did. No bid went in, nothing. Just reached out to see if he was available. Smell the gloves saying Rabbi Keane took him. And DJ Ray saying, I thought our next manager was Steve Clark. Oh, fuck. It's only one step worse on that. But anyway. So that whole Simon one way saying we just inquired about his availability. I saw this tweet earlier today. Still call it that. And from Classic Celtic on their excellent window so far, I reckon this is how we'll line up over the next few weeks. Schmeichel at goalkeeper, and in the back line of inquiring, monitoring, Scales, preparing. Midfield of interested, Hatate and eyeing. And then up front, Kenny with exploring and considering on the wings. Because we ain't doing shit.
How did Kenny keep his spot?
How'd Schmeichel keep his spot? It must
Because the kit man was injured.
Touche.
must have some Dermot Desmond dick pics or something. There you go. Let's see how that goes. So there was something else I was going to bring up. No, it doesn't matter. There we go. Scott Dougal's saying, I'm not defending Michael Nicholson, but if he has to run everything through Desmond, that's a major problem. Apparently it's anything under £3 million. He doesn't have to. Anything above, he has to. So that's part of the issue. Oh, this is what I was going to do. This one's for you, Robert. I put this one in last week and didn't put it on the screen. So bring back Palmer, Robert Gibson, allegedly. There you go. Good fun. And then there's this one for you, Shane. So, yeah. Basically, we've got so the pod name, obviously, we've gone from 6th tier to the Serie A. We're playing Bologna in the Europa League Thursday night, Friday morning our time. How are you feeling going into that, Ian?
Not very hopeful. Again, the momentum that Martin had the first time, that seems to have it just seems to be sort of dying embers now. The Nancy experiment really has flattened the whole season. You know, it was we had that kind of shot in the arm when Martin come back the first time, because it was going flat under Brendan. Let's be honest about it. The defeat to Hearts at Tynecastle, you know, the defeat at Dens Park. It looked like Brendan had he'd probably been worn down by everything that was happening backstage, and you know, the wheels were coming off well and truly. So that was a bit of a perfect storm. So Martin coming in and getting that kind of shot in the arm, you know, we I don't think we would have got battered by Roma if Martin was there. But now that we're kind of the morale's probably taking a bit of a kick. Martin's frustrated. You can see he's frustrated and probably stressed as well in terms of he's not having players in the door yet. He mentioned that, you know, obviously the Scottish Cup game and the Europa League game, we probably wouldn't have players in for that, so that, you know, that's kind of accepted. But we could be lambs to the slaughter. And again, it just from going from last season for doing really well and getting all the plaudits, and rightly so, against Bayern Munich, and just all we had to do is then just build upon that. We went backwards, and we've gone backwards at such a rate, you know, it was just like we jumped without a parachute and we're plummeting to the ground. You know, so we could get embarrassed, you know, and it's like all you say that kind of positive perception is absolutely lost like that.
It's a managed decline of the club. That's what it is.
Hubris, you know, incompetence. But it's basically a lack of care. Like, we're fans, and you would never ever want to see Celtic look anything other than their best, you know, at all times. Look at the stadium. You know how we've not invested in the stadium in the 25 years that it's been built. You know, if we did that main stand and got another 10,000 seats on there and got you know, start to use that stadium all year round. That's another revenue it just separates us from our rivals. You know, the hotel that was mooted, all this kind of stuff, but it's not even a consideration. We are so outdated as the way we're run, and all we have to do, if I was the CEO, sure, all the tail would be the same. go out and find clever people who are good at what they do and put them in the job, and that, and then say, right, let's do your stuff. It's straightforward, really.
Every business I've been involved in, Ian, I've been told you never want to be the smartest person in the room. If you're a manager, you want to have people there who are coming up, who are going to challenge and are going to push on. And as you're saying, hire smart people, because then they'll come in, they'll do well, and then you as a manager above them, you look good because your team's doing well.
Absolutely,
they're doing well, so then they can progress. They can you train them up, they take your job, you move up the next rung up the ranks again, and off you go again.
That's exactly it, mate. That's exactly it. And if you're the person who is reporting to a chief exec and you're that keen young Turk, you want to make your boss look good. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But and it's, I don't know where I heard it, but I like the sound of it. Like when you sign a player or you get a manager, get someone who's done it at 2 different clubs. Was it on this pod? I can't remember who said it. Someone said it anyway, so apologies, I can't remember who said it. But it's a really good, go and get someone who's done it at two different places, rather than then you're not just sort of getting a flash in the pan and becoming that, where they've sort of over delivered for a season or two, and then they come and just revert to type, a bit like Dyson, really. And that sort of one cracking season he had, I think he overproduced, really, sort of not aligned with his talent. So it's we can see it. Why can't the board? Eagle.
They need my glasses because I've got their blinkers on, I reckon. It's like that, that poster of the 3 monkeys, like hear no evil, see no evil,
speak no evil.
Speak no evil, that sort of stuff, yeah. Well, speak no evil's Michael Nicholson, obviously, because he's a mute, right? See no evil, who's that? That was Peter Lawwell, because he just refused to do that, and then, I'm sure you can figure out who the other one would be. The major, the biggest shareholder at the club. There you go. So, we've got, as we were talking on here, we've got Bologna, obviously. Someone's got a siren going.
I can hear it as well.
It's coming from outside. I'll put myself on mute unless I'm talking.
Don't worry about it, Shane. We know you're in the mean streets. You're all good.
It's not my alarm. That I just want to reassure people.
Someone hit the panic button in your dungeon.
Oh, Jesus!
No, that's not Liam. That's not Liam when he swings in his dungeon.
I thought you and I were friends. I don't know what I've done to deserve that. Now,
no, it was his reference at the start. I thought it was too much of an open goal.
I have a question. I have many questions, Shane. Do you have a Fritzl dungeon or something?
No,
I didn't mean that.
We're not going down that path.
I'll just say it because Liam's not here to go down the wrong path, so someone has to today. There you go. All right,
that was just a joke.
No, I'm only stirring you. I like to turn that way if someone puts you under pressure like that. Throw the friendship back in the face, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Shano, which way are you turning?
That's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah, bad use of phrase. That's going to get me in more trouble.
You just accidentally doubled down there. So anyway, back to the thing. Bologna, we got them. Lewis Ferguson, straight away playing for them. But the other one that jumps off the page, I want to see the name, Ciro Immobile.
Oh, wow.
Last time we played one of his teams, what happened?
Was he with Lazio, wasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah.
He was the star man up front for Lazio. I didn't know he was still playing, so he's probably got a walk-in frame or something about now. But, that's only 2 names that jumped off the page at me. And then on the weekend, we've got a whole nother good one. Henrik McGlassen here. It's the recruitment alarm. We signed a player. And a dream.
Well, it's stopped now, so clearly it was a false alarm.
Hey, mate, this is reminding me. Do you guys? It's a thing that really fucks me off in New Zealand. I don't know. You don't get them in the UK. I don't think. An alarm on your fridge. So if you leave the door open, and it beeps after about. Right, it's my fridge. I want to leave it open, right? But maybe that's what it is. It's an alarm. It's an alarm where we haven't signed a player, so there's an alarm going off, reminding us that we haven't signed a player. So it's like the fridge doors left open. I fucking know the fridge door's open. I left it open.
Oh, jeez. This pod's all over the joint. Anyone listening, I didn't take any gummies before the pod. I can't speak for the others.
Hey, I'm not saying
I can't believe no one's mentioned that before, man. Beef and fridges. Honestly, it's I could commit murder.
Yeah. We've got them over here because it's bloody 35 degrees outside today. So, you kind of don't want to leave your fridge open. But yeah, smell the gloves. At least the travelling fans will get a decent spag bowl.
It's hard to be positive about this match coming up. The only thing I will say, just to try and give it a bit of a positive spin, we do have a manager in the dugout that can jag a result like this, that is competent in being able to get the best out of this team, this squad, when required to get a result. And as we've seen in the past couple of matches, he can get a result even when we're not playing our best. And that's something that Brendan was struggling to do at the end of his tenure. And it's something Nancy would never, ever be able to do, is to get a Celtic team like this, not playing well, but still managing to eke out a result. So we've got the right man in the dugout to get a positive result against Bologna, but it's hard to be really confident going into the game.
The thing is, though, mate, is like I agree with that wholeheartedly, but despite the fact we're getting lots of balls in the box, which is a very Martin thing to try and do, we have got no one to take advantage of it. That's the harsh reality. And with the Italians, if they score, they'll probably shut up shop. And it's like this season, actually, out of all the turmoil that's happened, had we not appointed Nancy, we probably could have gone a bit deeper in this competition. I think we're just going to get knocked out with a whimper.
The inability to keep Martin on as interim manager until the end of the season under his first spell is looking worse and worse every day. That whole Nancy situation, and situation's a very kind word, could have been avoided, and we could have been top of the league. We could have been looking at a deeper run in the Europa League, and that's all been thrown out the window, basically. I agree wholeheartedly with you. We could be so many different places right now had we even just continued down that line, and we didn't. And it's, again, another failure on a board that's made so many missteps recently that you can't help but be just angry. But just getting back to the comment very earlier, I can't remember who it was that said signing a striker won't fix all of our problems. Wholeheartedly agree. There's definitely problems that run a lot deeper in this squad. But I think it's the most obvious area we need improvement right now, because we are way too profligate in front of goal.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at some comments here. So Pedro Picasso is saying 2 wins in Europe and we make the playoff. Threw in the cup and not far behind the league, all to play for Celtic, and we need a couple of signings off the back of that. Robert Gibson saying we're getting pumped by Bologna. My question to you boys is what's your priority? Like Steve McGonigal was saying, Bologna are crap. They won't beat us by a lot. Hold it to 4-0 at least. Hold it to a 4-0 defeat. So what is your priority? Do you think we're going to be able to go to Bologna and jag a point or jag a win? I don't think we will, right? I don't know how you boys think we'll throw these in a second. So with that in mind, are we going to put a couple of players in cotton wool so that they're fit for Sunday at Tynecastle against Hearts? Which game's the priority for you? Are we writing off Europe to try and, get some points back from Hearts? Are we going to have a crack at this Bologna game? Because, in my opinion, if we go to Bologna and manage to get a result, that's going to be huge for us, and it's going to put that pep back in the step of our players and our coaching staff and that belief, and that could be the launching pad we need to go to Tynecastle and win. So I can see both ways here. Do you put your cue in the rack for the Bologna game so you can target that one, or do you try and use that as a launching pad? Either option works for me. I don't want us to go to Italy and, just not expect to win. I would like us to go there. I don't think we're going to win. I think we'll pick up a draw. I think it'll be a 2-2 draw over there. And the only reason it's a 2-2 draw is because they're going to have an own goal, and then Dazen's going to score our other goal, right? But off the back of that could be a good spot for us to look at and go, all right, we went to Italy. We went to a tough place. We picked up a point. Now let's get the improvement again, the incremental game the next week and the next game when we go and play Hearts. That's the way I'm looking. That's how I'm prioritizing. I don't know how you guys feel about it, so I'll throw to you, Ian. How are you viewing this?
We're Celtic. We should be aspiring to win every game. So I think we go for it. We got to go for it on both fronts. We should have enough to beat Hearts. Really, I think with Martin O'Neill, I think if Martin O'Neill was manager in the last game, we wouldn't have lost. So whether that means we play Dyson through the middle, he's just as likely to hit the Green Brigade as the back of the net, as we've said before at times, as a striker. I don't think it's his position, but I think he's probably a better bet at the moment with rather than Kenny. But and I don't think Martin O'Neill's the type of guy as well that would kind of he's so old school. This is kind of this modern phenomenon where the expectation of fans is lowered, where people will play weekend teams in certain cup competitions and things like that. I'm from an era, I suppose the 80s was my era really, and it's like you try and win everything, and that's with a team that was like with a squad of about 14 people. So my approach would be, winning doesn't have breed winning.
What do you think, Shane?
Just before I get onto that, I've just worked out what that alarm was for. Amazingly, they've just uploaded the second half of the Cup game to Celtic TV, so that's what that alarm was.
There you go.
Look, I think it's a tough one for me because I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying, Jared. Going and getting the win against Bologna or any kind of positive result would be huge for our club right now, considering where we are and the frustration and the performances lately and all the upheaval. It would be a massive galvanizing result and could be the kind of thing that does kick them on to getting a win at Tynecastle, which is so important. So I'm really tempted by that. And I agree with Ian. In an ideal world, Celtic should be looking to win every game. The Celtic that we know and love should be looking to go into every game and saying, we can win this, right? That is our club. But we're not there right now. And if you have to prioritize one, you have to prioritize a game against Hearts in the league because we can't go 9 points behind in the league. 6 points right now. It's only two wins, right? But it feels like a mountain. 9 points is going to feel almost insurmountable, even in January. So I think you've got to prioritize the league, but a positive result in Italy is going to be absolutely massive.
I'm going to just go on a little tangent here, a bit of waffle for once for me. Ian, you're saying about we want to win every game. 100%. That's how I view it. I want to win the games. Do I think we've got enough to win in Italy? Probably not, right? But I'd like us to go and have a crack at it. The thing for me is that whole mindset of I want to win every game. And as someone in the comments said that Smell the Glove is saying, at least in the early 90s, we had McStay and Collins, right? And then you look at other teams when you're trying to win on every front, like when Martin O'Neill was manager last time. If he's trying to rotate strikers, he's got Sutton, he's got Larson, he's got Hartson, right? So he can rotate guys. Middle of the park, he's got heaps of players. The back, deep squad. The only weak spot in that team was goalkeeper, in my opinion. And then you look at even Ange's team a few years back. You had Kyogo up front, but then you had Giacomakis coming off the bench. If your wingers needed to rotate because you press hard, you've got Dyson on the left, you've got Jota on the right. If Dyson needs a game off, you put Jota on the left, you bring Abada in. So you've got those players to rotate through there. At the back, you've got Juranovic, and you just got heaps of players you rotate and got Greg Taylor there. So you're able to rotate your squad. You've got depth. Middle of the park, same deal. The second season when Moy came in, it rounded out that midfield, right? So lots of options there. The problem I have with this squad is we don't have that depth. We don't have those impact players on the bench. So I would love for us to go to Italy, strongest possible lineup, and just throw everything at the wall and try to win. But then if we do that, because it's a Thursday game and we've got to play again as it on Sunday, and we've got to travel back from Italy, back to Glasgow, and then across to Edinburgh, recovery time's going to be eaten into. So that's where you'd want to rotate players. But say if you look at our squad now and you need to rotate, who's coming in that can actually be an impact player for us? That's where this game against Auchinleck Talbot was massive for us to see. And as I said at the start of the pod, who's going to step up and put down a marker? No one did in that. So now I've got no faith that, if we were to put Bernardo in after going away, if Kelmac needs a game off or if he cops a knock or something like that, and we've got to put Bernardo in, do I think he can do the job? No. McCowan, Luke McCowan, Colby Donovan, and Sinisalo. They're the only three that I really have faith in as players that could come in and we wouldn't lose much. Everyone else, it's not the same. So I hope that rant wasn't a bad one. But Simon from Denny said Mikey Johnson, on his current ability, would be useful in his squad now. That's a sign of the times. And then Pedro Picasso is saying why I was just saying what I went on my little rant about. McGregor's running on empty. So yeah, that's just how I view it. I want us to go over to Bologna. If we pick up a point, great. Come back and have a crack, but who knows?
Harvey Elliott's available, isn't he? I was just thinking before about, sort of injection of, it's going to be loan signings probably. It's a shame that these guys weren't in the door for us now for the Bologna game. But I just think if we take a kick in it against Bologna, I think we go in with our heads down against Hearts. I personally don't think Hearts are going to win the league, even if they go 9 points ahead. I think they'll bottle it. They've never been in this position before. Whereas we have, in terms of what it's like to be having people chasing you and hunting you down. But yeah.
So Harvey Elliott is. I was just having a look now. Other than his shit haircut, he could actually be decent for us. Problem is, Ian, he can't play in Europe because squads are sorted. So he'd be able to. He'd be one that would be able to play against Hearts if he was to come in. But yeah. It's a tough spot. We'll see how it plays out. Shane, I'll give you the last thing about this whole current situation in terms of 2 games. What do you want us to do? And then we'll get to our final thoughts and end the pod.
Well, like I said, I think you have to prioritise the league. The club that I know, that you know, that we all want to be, and that we all expect to be, shouldn't have any concerns about necessarily having to play Bologna and then come back and play on the Sunday against Hearts. Because if we were at where we all expect us to be, as you said, Jared, I don't really want to rehash your rant, but we would have those impact players. We would have other players we could turn to. We'd have the depth that we could use, and this wouldn't be a problem. But we don't, and we're not there right now. So unfortunately, we do have to prioritise one of the games, in my opinion, and that would be the game against Hearts. And for what it's worth, I think we'll probably lose in Italy against Bologna. I reckon we'll probably lose 2-0. But I do think Martin will engineer a result at Tynecastle, either 1 or 2-0, and get us well and truly back in the title race.
Here's a question. Sorry to jump in, right? I'll put this out to everyone that's watching as well. If hypothetically, right, would you take losing the league this season if it mean you won the Europa League?
Yeah, I would actually, because I don't see us finishing anything better than 3rd at the moment, unless we strengthen our squad massively.
No, if you guarantee you either win the league or win the Europa League this season, what would you choose?
I'd take the Europa League.
You have to pick a continental trophy. It's a tremendous achievement against so many other big clubs around Europe. Like you can't turn that down, even if it is for the league.
Yeah.
I'll throw something else at you. You know why I said that as well? Because even if the Huns were to win the league, you're talking about that 40 million early on, Ian. If we win the Europa League, we're straight into the Champions League, which means that pot gets split, so they don't get as much money.
Yeah. That's a good point, actually.
And that also puts them winning the league, qualifying and getting in the Champions League and making that 40 million. Well, we're also getting the same, so it doesn't eradicate that advantage we've got. So that's the little cheeky way I'm looking at it as well.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. I would forego the league this year to go to win the Europa League. It's not going to happen. It could have happened maybe if we'd sort of taken it seriously and built upon the success, the sort of the inroads we made last year. But yeah.
So here's a response to your question, Ian. No, from Simon. Robert Gibson, straight to the point. Nah, fuck that. Michael Ross, yes, but that's fantasy. Simon from Denny, good shout. I've changed my mind.
I think that's after your explanation of the Champions League stuff, Jared.
Yeah.
And Smell the Glove, winning Europa League. Let's get the PlayStation on. There you go. Yep. So at the end of the day, we'll see how it goes. But thanks to everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate it. If you haven't done so, please hit that like button, subscribe to the podcast, and yeah, we'll just help the pod keep growing. Final thoughts. You guys ready to go, or do you want me to go first?
No, good to go.
Shano's giving his head a wobble, so over to you, Shane.
So music for me as usual. I've been catching up a lot with listening to the Smiths lately. Really enjoy listening to the Smiths. Meat is Murder is one of my favorite albums. But I've also extended into listening to Johnny Marr's solo stuff, and I just want to give a shout out to his live album, Look Out Live. It's awesome. It's definitely worth checking out. Does a lot of his solo stuff, does a lot of Smiths classics, and it's got one of the best live versions of How Soon Is Now that I've ever heard. So Look Out Live, Johnny Marr. Check it out.
Fair enough. For me, I have two things I wanted to say. Number one, just quickly, because I forgot to mention it early on, how good was having the Green Brigade back in the stadium cheering on their fans. Like, that made a difference for the atmosphere, but now I'll put that aside. My final thought, music one as well, because of you, Shane, I'm going to go down the same path. Check out The Blind Side. It's my cousin's band. And they've just dropped another single, absolute cracker. And Ian?
Well, I feel a bit funny now. Not
Oriole Records.
Oriole Records, yeah. No, but I was just going to say, I just hope we get some quality players in. Actually players that are going to walk into that team and improve the team. And Split Ends are just reformed as well. So
happy days. All right, thanks everyone for tuning in. Hail, hail, and we'll see you next pod.
Hail, hail.